the Daniel Cleland podcast.
My brother, Michael Gorczynski of Vancouver, Canada. Well, not originally. Mike, where are you from originally?
I was born in a little city called Warsaw, Poland. So got the Slavic thing going on. However, I didn't really grow up there. My parents moved when I was just a little baby to greener pastures, and I spent my formative years in Belgium, the Flemish part of Belgium, a little city close, or rather a little country close to the Netherlands, where they speak a bunch of languages and whatnot. It's smack dab in the middle of Europe. Pretty cool place to get an international kind of upbringing. That's where I spend most of my life. So I'd say I'm a Polish Belgian Canadian.
And now you're in Vancouver. How did we meet in Vancouver?
We actually started.
How and when did we meet in Vancouver?
Oh man, that must have been like something like 9 or 10 years ago. You know exactly when it was? Something like that, right?
It was 2012, summer 2012.
Gotcha. So 9 years ago, just less than 9 years ago.
Coming up on that.
Yeah, my man. We started working on the exact same day in the same company. And from what I remember, you came from Ontario at the time. So not unlike my story, where you come from a place far, far away, and with big, starry, open eyes, you look at Vancouver and its beauty and its nature and its people. And we were there. We were hungry for some action. And yeah, we got hired at the same company, started working on the same day, sat next to each other for the longest time, hitting the friggin' phones, boiler room style, and slinging a bunch of botanical and less than botanical products for a number of months and years there. Great times.
What kind of botanicals were we slinging? This was a sales job. What kind of botanicals were we selling?
Oh, Kratom. Kratom, that's the big one. And I think we'll be going a little bit more into detail today about Kratom. That was a big one, but at the time it was a free-for-all. I remember we were slinging some salvia at the time, salvia divinorum extract, the diviner sage, not necessarily the most legal substance nowadays, and pretty much anything and everything they told us to sell. For us, it was a sales experience, a growing experience, part of being being part of a startup, kind of like a dynamic startup with a strong leader. I always compared him to Richard Branson, not Charles Branson, but Richard Branson. And it was just a perfect place to get some action, get some experience, get some business experience, get motivated by some awesome, tremendous sales agents. It was just such a treat. It was a masterclass in business and sales and friendship, and ultimately the whole startup kind of structure of business. And yeah, it was excellent. We met, and then from what I remember, we hit it up pretty much right away. We were sitting shoulder to shoulder, motivating each other, taking copious amounts of Kratom capsules called pimp bombs at the time. There were these big 1 gram horse capsules that were just popping to get some energy and some boost in there. And yeah, we didn't want to outshine each other. So we definitely had that like male competitiveness going on of who's going to crank out more calls and all that. It was good times, man. Good times. I saw a video of it.
It's funny.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's funny because that's like the last job both of us have had, right? That's the last company we've ever worked for. We've both gone into business for ourselves since having that like inspirational kind of sales business, small company, entrepreneurial leader kind of mentorship that came with that, right?
It was very much a masterclass for which we got paid for it. You just can't go wrong with that. I remember you took a trip to Europe as well with the main guy Steve there at the time, and oh man, you had like copious notes about the entrepreneur experience, just to have that hands-on personal experience of just going with such a go-getter, such an energetic, vibrant visionary of sorts. You can't pay for that shit, man. That's real life experience.
You really can't.
That's combined with hunger, combined with motivation, combined with coming to a new place, wanting to do the best, a fresh start on things, and I think it was definitely very formative, that time that we had there.
Yeah. That's why I highly recommend anyone interested in entrepreneurship or really doing better is always have a mentor in life. Like always have somebody in your circle, whether you're working for them or whether you're paying them or whether they're, just someone that is, interested in helping you out or whatever. But have that mentor. I learned so much from that guy. And like you said, I took notes and I studied. I think I worked there for like a year and a half or 2 years with the ultimate objective of breaking off into entrepreneurship
Mm.
and just being able to learn from this dude. That was pretty dope. And it's awesome that, you did the same thing. Like basically we learned how to sell, we learned how to grow a business, we learned how to be resilient and independent and think like entrepreneurs. And then we were like, fuck it, we can do this ourselves.
100%, 100%. Yeah, you kind of want to get away from that, 9 to 5 grind. I mean, some people don't, and it's comfortable and it's established and it's a structure you can hold on to. But there's something about really making a change. And if you want to take, a day off and whatnot, you can. But if you want to, grind it out through the weekend, you can as well. And just all comes down to how strongly you believe in what you are going or getting after. And if you really want to make a change, make an impact on life, then I mean, what better way than to do it yourself and surround yourself with the
Yeah.
best people to do it with. And like you said, mentorship is just like the highway towards greatness versus building your own little road through the jungle and chopping away at it, but maybe it'll take years just to get you like 100 meters, whereas the highway will just like get you there in no time. At the same time, choose your mentors
Absolutely.
well. Ultimately, you want to find a mentor that preferably has gone through something similar that you have, or that you are interested in. Someone that you respect, someone that is in a way in the same boat but further along there. And because we're all human beings, we're all very very similar to each other at the baseline level. You can learn the patterns from these guys, and they can see the patterns from where in themselves and their own experience curve. They can really help you accelerate along those lines because they've been there. So you're going to find the right mentor as well, not just any schmo.
Right. So, yeah, on this conversation, this is actually our second second go at this conversation. We had a conversation in like October, like 6 months ago, when I was just kind of getting this podcast started, and we were not really in our studio, and it was like one of the first conversations I had, and I thought, because obviously we're going to talk about Kratom in this episode, and I thought that, when in Rome, we're going to be talking about Kratom. So I brewed myself a big old pot of this real thick Kratom tea. And so I'm drinking this Kratom tea as we're talking and like beforehand, and it started to make my throat numb. So like I choked up a couple times when I was talking to you, and it just wasn't the best conversation. So we're redoing it now. This is like round 2. We're set up here in the studio. I didn't have any Kratom tea before this call.
Listen,
I had
Dan.
some Kratom powder, of course.
Listen, Dan. You're not the first person that's chokes up when they talk to me. So it's all normal. It's don't worry about it. It's human nature.
Especially of the finer sex.
My man, indeed, indeed. I guess I'm not winning any prizes for backgrounds today, hey? Look at you go. You got the psychedelic dining, you got the plants. Yeah, looks dope, man. Looks dope. I can learn a thing or two. I got a box of labels in the back there and some drawers I don't use. So yeah, I'll get there one day, brother.
All right. Well, let's talk about Kratom, because that's what I want to. That's the information I want to get out to the public. We can talk about Kratom. We shoot the shit a little bit on entrepreneurship and your app development and stuff. You got some public speaking stuff to discuss. So
whatever we feel is the right for your audience. At the end of the day, this is about your audience. It's not about you. This is not about me. It's about educating and informing your audience. So let's focus on that.
Right on. So let's let's you and I are kratom experts, if not only by experience, but you've got a very broad experience with kratom. You're perhaps involved in some associations, and you've been familiar with the field of kratom for since we had that job back in the day. So let's just start with, what is kratom and how is it used?
Beautiful question, and let's just simplify it as if we've never heard about kratom before. Most important thing to know about kratom: it is a big tree that grows in the jungle, traditionally in the Borneo rainforest, but it's popping up in the Amazon rainforest as well. It requires a tropical climate. That's besides the point. But what the locals and the indigenous people figured out is that the leaves off of this tree have certain properties. Whether you chew on them or you make a tea out of them, you steep it into a delicious tea, they have certain properties. If you consume kratom, it gives you energy, boosts you up, makes you ready to go. That's number one. Number two, because you have extra energy, feel like a little bit better, you feel a little bit stronger, lifts up your mood as well. Feel a little bit more chatty, more happy, more like, hey, let's get social and whatnot. So there's a mood uplifting effect as well. And the third effect, and that's probably the I would say the most important one out of the three, because energy, there's stuff to get to do energy. But the third one, it has pain relieving properties, which means that you drink this tea, you feel stronger, you feel happier, and you feel, if you're experiencing any pain or discomfort, it smooths out the pain all at once. So it's this triple whammy of pure leaves from one tree, no additives. They give you energy, pain relief, and a mood uplifting, and a slew of other effects, such as focus, motivation, things like that. And did I mention that this plant is in the same family as coffee is? We all know how ubiquitous coffee is throughout the world. It's pretty much fuels everything out there. Now, if you're a bit like me, like I love my cup of coffee once in a while, but I don't know, like too much of it, I kind of feel in my stomach and kind of get a little bit jittery and whatnot. Like it's nice, but you can't have too much of it, or you just start feeling sick. And that's where kratom comes in for me. Gives you this full body energy boost, gets you going for the day, and that's basically the effect of it. It's traditionally used as a tea, as a chewable, and yeah, locals that were working in the heat, in the tropical heat climate of the jungle, therefore day in, day out in that sweltering, muggy heat. I mean, you would know it better than me how that feels. They chose these leaves to just keep going, keep getting motivation, keep working through it, and yeah, that effect is now replicable because kratom has become available to people in the Western world, and it's a relatively new development of introducing this plant, but at the same time, this is something that's been used for centuries. That's the short kind of gist of what kratom is about and what it does.
So where does it grow and what does the supply chain look like? Like, where are the main sources and how is it going around the world right now?
The main source of kratom is Southeast Asia. There are some farms in Thailand, in Malaysia, the Borneo region, but the main region of where it grows, and where probably 90+% of the kratom in the world comes from, is Indonesia. Indonesia, deep, lush rainforests that have been untouched for centuries and whatnot. Deep tradition of local indigenous people that again haven't been too much touched and corrupted and destroyed and whatnot. And in a way, it's the wisdom of the plants, the wisdom of the ages that is reaching us. So I would say Indonesia is the number one source of kratom. And the way the supply chain works is, well, it's a jungle tree. It's ubiquitous. It grows lusciously everywhere, and yeah, farms just organize around that, where they harvest the leaves, they dry the leaves. Then once the leaves are dried, they kind of crush them up into like a tea-like substance. Later, if they require, they take the stems and the hard bits out. So only the plant, the leaf matter remains. that gets put into a grinder that gets like micro grind until there's like a very thin powder. Not unlike matcha in terms of consistency and flavor and even the way it looks. And after that, yeah, it just gets packaged and sent around the world to other people to receive it, and then later down for people in the Western world, lab tests are required to make sure there's no microbacteria, there's no contamination, no heavy metal, no mold, and all of that and whatnot. So that's a big part in guaranteeing the safety of kratom in the marketplace as well. Because yeah, we don't want to just be consuming anything coming from a country with maybe lesser standard for things.
A green powder, it literally could have anything in it if it's not tested, right?
That's a big one too. That's for sure a big one too. So there's you got to do your diligence if you want to do anything with kratom. Otherwise, you're not just doing the people that you supply a service, you are doing nature a service as well. So that's key, and should be always on the forefront of anyone that is dealing with kratom, whether from a supply perspective or from a demand perspective.
So they're packaging the kratom in Southeast Asia for the most part, shipping it around the world. Are there any issues with legality? Is kratom legal everywhere? Or is it illegal in some places, or is it just regulated in other places?
Mm-hmm. I'd say it's like 98% legal. There are a handful of states in the US where they made it illegal. I want to say the UK is illegal as well. But most of those places where it is illegal, they did not do their diligence. It was something that was thrown into the court saying, hey, this is bad. They didn't really analyze it. They didn't do any research of it. They just made an association with pain relief, made an association with opiates, saying, hey, this is dangerous. Addicts use this instead of heroin. And yeah, just by hitting those little notes, it became illegal in a couple of places. But at the same time, the knowledge, the due diligence is being done about kratom. So a lot of these places where it is technically illegal are getting overturned because doctors, lawyers, lawmakers, people like you and me are just standing up towards that, saying like this is something that should be available. This is something that should be in everyone's medicine cabinet as a matter of speech. And at the same time, I mean, it's very comparable to coffee. So you could say that coffee is a stimulant and it is like cocaine. It gets you up and running and whatnot. Like, yeah, there's a comparison to be made with, it giving you energy or it giving you pain relief. But there's the danger profile is so it's so safe, it's so minimal that it's almost ridiculous to hear about any illegality of it. And at the same time, there's such a movement behind it, and there's millions of people using it now throughout North America that it's been rigorously stress tested in the field at this point. So I want to say most people know that it is something that is good, that is helpful, that is hopefully here to become a huge part. And for me, the holy trifecta of plant medicine is cannabis, is I would say coffee too, maybe not like medicinal, but definitely productive, and kratom. Day in, day out, I'm hearing people's stories about kratom where this has changed their life, literally saved their life in a huge way. People who are addicted to some dangerous opiates they couldn't get their hands on anymore. So in desperation, they went looking for other things and whatnot, and finally they came to kratom, and they're getting their life back and whatnot. I think I'm like running ahead a little bit because I want to talk to that as well, of how kratom works for different people, but done right, this is Mother Nature's love that is just being offered to us to help us in some of the biggest problems that we have as humanity right now.
Well, it's very inspiring hearing you say how things have progressed over time. like when we were just getting involved with the industry, there was a lot of pressure to make it illegal because there was a lot of these bullshit stories about, overdoses or whatever. But it almost feels like Kratom's winning that battle, right? And it's to me, I find it very satisfying and inspiring because, as you know, I'm involved with ayahuasca as well. And in Costa Rica, where ayahuasca is similar to kratom in that it's just a plant that kind of came about the public awareness recently, and it's not illegal. So they haven't regulated it because there's no law against it. There just has never been a law against it. And so these like ayahuasca centers and people doing ceremonies have been coming up to Costa Rica and doing these ceremonies in public view. And at first there was some kind of pressure from the authority or just confusion from the authorities. Like, what do we do with this? Like, do we have to ban this? It's a drug, like it's a psychedelic. But do we need to write a law against it or not? And, based on just that real data of thousands of people doing it with no deaths, no real incidents, no real consequences other than just, tourism revenue for Costa Rica, employment for citizens of Costa Rica, Costa Rica's kind of coming on the map. So it's like, we had an issue with the government here that at Soltara Healing Center, which of course everybody probably knows, I run down here, but we had an issue with the government that analyzed us and basically said, okay, there's no law against this and we're concerned about it, but we're going to let you continue operating with it if you have a clinic on site, just so there's some kind of medical formality that's checking people before and after they finish the ceremonies or the retreat. And they basically said, okay, you know what? This is fine. You guys are good to go. You can continue doing this. And it feels like with that sheer mass of data that has come in from just all these millions of people using Kratom with such few incidents, it's like, okay, Kratom's winning. Like how are they going to say that it's terrible and that it's illegal right now? Right.
Even if they try, they don't have the truth behind them. And maybe we can segue a little bit into what happened in 2016 when the DEA, under pressure of pharmaceutical companies, actually put out a motion to make Kratom illegal all across the U.S. That was a bit of a panic motion because obviously the DEA has special powers, emergency powers to declare substances illegal, and that's not a bad thing per se. If there's something bad like spice that was at the time, or bath salts, or people are chewing each other's faces off and whatnot, there's no regulation, just weird chemicals sprayed on God knows what herbs and whatnot, then they kind of have to do that, have to do their diligence, because this is in the interest of public health. There are people dying, freaking out, getting psychosis and whatnot. That's what was it made for. Now, what happened there was that a bunch of lobbyists and pharmaceutical companies saw that this kratom thing was on the rise. It was helping people with pain relief in a cheap, safe, effective, natural way. And as you can imagine, it's not nice to see people going into your profits. So what they did was, they lobbied for the DEA to make it illegal. Obviously, presented it as, the devil's lettuce part 2 or something. And the DEA decided, like, oh yeah, well, we haven't heard differently, so let's do this. I mean, we're talking about the U.S. as well, so the lobbying and capitalism and the almighty dollar before everything else definitely had a role to play there. But what happened there was quite inspiring, because their emergency scheduling would allow for 30 days before it happened. But within those 30 days, you had such a rally of people organizing, coming together, writing to their congressmen, to lawyers, to protest this thing, Let me whip up the statistics on this one real quick, because this was pretty hallucinating of how quickly people came together to just rally behind this plan. And this was 2016, so Kratom wasn't even all that much known yet. This was 5 years ago. But here, let's see some numbers. 142 people, 142,000 people signed saying, "Hey, we want to keep this around. This is good. This is helping us." The DEA opened up a period for so-called public comment, so people could leave their experience with Kratom with the DEA to basically get a survey of how Kratom is perceived in the marketplace in the country. And more than 23,000 people left a comment about Kratom. Out of those 23,000 people, 99.1% was overwhelmingly positive, saying, "Hey, man, this is what are you doing? This is great. This is. I've seen people's lives get improved. Like, don't take this away from us. This is medicine." Doctors got involved, especially vets got involved. People, with injuries after coming home from tour of duties and whatnot. Veterans, huge market for Kratom, all these things. Not unlike ayahuasca in that way. Scientists they didn't believe that this should be banned. This is ridiculous. So even a bipartisan committee of House and Senate members from both the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, including Bernie Sanders, signed a letter saying, "Keep this alive. People want this." And it was just such a beautiful moment of people coming together for nature, for a helpful cause, rallying behind it in a record time of less than 30 days. That I believe for the very first time in history, the emergency ruling of making something illegal within 30 days by the DEA was declared void. They retracted this
Wow.
for the very
Yeah,
first time in
that's
history.
great.
So I mean,
Power of the people,
power to
man.
the people. Like, we do have the power, and it was just such a beautiful message. I felt of like, this is people need this. People, this is important for people, and what better way than activism to get the word out there and tell people about this, and ultimately, help nature save their lives through giving the plants a voice, which is
So you've mentioned you've said save your lives a couple of times. I know what you mean by that, but what you're really getting at is Kratom is in some way an antidote to the opioid crisis, because you see this, regularly more than I do anyways, being in Vancouver. In Vancouver, there's a lot of street drugs and things like that. And I mean, you can explain it yourself, but what I'm getting at is drug addicts, particularly opioid addicts, have found plant medicine relief to be a sufficient substitute for chemical substance addictions, chemical substance dependencies, right?
absolutely. So maybe we could speak to that real quick. The way I like to explain Kratom is that wherever you are on the, let's say, health scale, it'll get you one level up. So let's say we're here near the top. We're pretty athletic, pretty healthy. We take Kratom, we get energy, we get motivation. We're a little bit happier, a little bit more focused, a little bit more after it if we want to do a workout. It's a nice little top. It doesn't change too much about us, but it gives us that extra pep in the step. So that's beautiful. No real risks there. Then people who are like traditionally low energy, just either because emotionally or physically or anything, they're a little bit just on a calmer level. That will get them to a productive. So that lift them up to that productive, get after it kind of mood. And then we're going a little bit more into the negative territory. So if you're depressed, if you're a little bit sad and whatnot, if you procrastinate a lot and whatnot, because of depression, it can be anything. It can be psychological, can be emotional, can be physical, anything. For those people, it'll lift them up so they feel normal. So they feel like this is just I'm feeling life. I can do whatever I want and whatnot. So it works there. And now we're really going into like the dark territory. So people who are addicted, who have a certain drug addiction, whether it's cocaine, whether it's alcohol and whatnot. They just need it. They need something to scratch that itch. For those people, it can help to not rely on the other things all so much. So yes, they might still, feel like they want it, but they won't need it all this much. And if they need it, they have something that is, natural, safe, that is effective, that is, economical as well. So for a lot of people, it's a substitute to harder stuff. And now we're getting to like the real problem cases. But at the same time, this is where the most pain takes place. This is people who are in chronic pain all the time. Imagine, a chronic injury. I'm sure you could speak to that for sure after, your story in Australia. People who have fibromyalgia, chronic pain, neural degeneracy and whatnot. People are just constantly in pain. Most people that get into opiates are not, people that just scour the street looking for the next fix. Most people who get into opiates is they got it prescribed by their doctors. So they take opiates, it works for a little bit, and the prescription runs out. However, chronic pain, opiates will mask the pain, it won't resolve the source of the pain. So what if you felt really bad for a while, then really good for a while because of the opiates and the painkillers, but then that runs out, you hit that pit even more, and that's where a lot of people they need something, and there is no real good solution on the marketplace for people who experience chronic pain, who have, you could call it addiction, but they just don't want to feel the pain. So that's why a lot
Yeah.
of people grab to drugs or unprescribed drugs, street drugs, things like heroin, things like other opiates, oxys, and all that. It's just they need something. And just to give you a bit of a number of how serious this problem is, here I looked it up here. In the last 10 years, over 500,000 people died off of opiate overdoses. So that's about 50,000, if not more, uh, a year in North America. So I think this is U.S. only.
In North America.
Actually, U.S. only. So and Canada too, and it's
half a
even
million
more.
people in the last 10 years.
500,000 died, right? So I'm not talking about people who just are addicted, and probably 90% of them lives, even if it's not in the perfect circumstances. This is hardcore cases where they took so many opiates that
it's probably.
Go ahead.
It's probably backloaded too, right? Like in the last few years, it's been heavier than 10 years ago.
It's safe to assume, man. It's safe to assume because, again, the almighty dollar is not helping the cause either. Big pharmaceutical companies, such as the guys who made OxyContin, Purdue, they've literally pleaded guilty to playing a huge role in the opiate crisis, and they got fined $8.3 billion for pushing their drugs on people through intermediaries like doctors and whatnot. But they literally got found guilty, had to admit that, we pushed this thing on there for the shareholders, for our profit margin, for the almighty dollar. And as much as I love the almighty dollar, it shouldn't go at the cost of human life and energy and health. That's where I draw the line. And so I'm in Canada, not a US.
So if that's the case, then, is Kratom dangerous? Is it an opioid? What are the side effects?
Yeah. So what's good to know about Kratom is that if you're in that category of chronic pain or just that miserable place where you're suffering or depressed and whatnot, it will provide relief. It will get you up a little bit. It will relieve the pain. It will feel like you can go about your normal day. And this is what most people want. They just want to feel normal. They don't necessarily want to feel like, top of the world, friggin' nature boy Ric Flair all the time. That's not what it's about. People just want to feel normal. And what Kratom does is provide that level of normality, get you that energy up, relieve your pain so you can not focus on that pain all the time. It just brings you to a normal state where you can function normally, talk normally, not just constantly focus on the pain and the suffering and the misery. So it just lifts you up. And it doesn't lift you up like 100%. It lifts you up like, 20, 30%, just enough to feel feel better. That's what it does.
Functional.
Functional,
Even.
and that's why it's so good. That no matter what, it'll lift you up. Hardcore addicts use it to just have something, so it scratches that itch. So it's medicinal, not unlike cannabis, where they've had, you know, great success introducing cannabis for people who are addicted to certain opiates and whatnot, and painkillers to ease the pain. With the difference that kratom doesn't work psychoactively, so it doesn't give you like weird, crazy, creative ideas per se. No, it just gets your physical energy up so you can just focus on your normal thing. But as far as your brain goes, you're exactly the same person, and it's pretty much impossible to tell that someone is on kratom unless I don't know, they're just like super energetic, super productive, super motivated, all like really, really positive things.
So there are no side effects?
Side effects, let's see. Well, like with anything, there's a safe range of kratom to consume. If you do too much, which sometimes people do, then your bodily safety release mechanism will activate, which is actually a good thing. So you do too much, you actually just throw up what you did too much and feel normal again within seconds. So that's the beauty of it. But that's like with anything. Like you can use a pen to write, you can use a pen to stab someone in the eye, and just got to use the tool right. So there's a bit of a trial and error there to be done. So I would say it's very safe in terms of taking a certain amount of large amounts of it, and that there is very safe there, because obviously you have that release mechanism. At the same time, yeah, it's nature. It's not mixed with weird chemicals, and the biggest thing is that most opiate overdoses happen because of respiratory failure. In a simple way, what happens if you take too much opiates? They go into your brain, your central nervous system, and yes, they shut down the pain receptors in your brain. So you're like, I'm not feeling any pain anymore. But I mean, the pain is still there. It's just the receptors have been shut off. However, with opiates and chemical opiates and whatnot, like things like fentanyl and heroin and whatnot, what it does is if you do too much, it affects the other parts next to the pain receptors as well. So things like, things we take for granted, things like breathing, things like heartbeat and whatnot. And what most of the times happens when people overdose, they do so much that yes, they shut off the pain, but it overflows into the other parts of your brain, such as breathing, automated processes. And yeah, once breathing shuts down, then it's bye bye because you're not breathing anymore, and that gets fucked up. So what happens with kratom is like it kind of massages those opiate receptors, but it never crosses into those other places, and that is why it's so safe. People don't, choke on it, so it's as safe as it gets from a physical perspective, a neurological perspective as it gets.
So you can't overdose on kratom.
I've never heard of a fatal overdose of kratom. All I've ever heard was very circumstantial things, like, I mean, someone jumped off a bridge and he had some kratom packs in his car. So they're like, well, see,
Sure,
it's dangerous, but it's going to be like that. Then that's so far reaching. Out of millions of people, someone had a pack of kratom in their car and they jumped off a bridge. One person is I'm sure they had some other issues as well, and I actually do, but I don't want to go too much into their story. It's a sad story and whatnot, but I mean, if you had a cup of coffee in the morning, but you're feeling suicidal because of life's misery or what you're going through and whatnot, it's not going to be the cup of coffee that kills it.
Sure. How big is the kratom market in North America?
I don't have the exact numbers. It's very much a approximation, but from studies that some of the advocacy groups have done, there are about 5 million users of kratom in America. 5 million users in a place that has 300 million or so. So that's like almost 2% of the people, I think, something like that. So it's quite big, and it's only growing as people get more aware of it, as more products are being made, as it's becoming more
1/60th.
safe,
Yeah.
as it's becoming more safer as well. It's pretty cool. On that note, The University of Florida actually got a grant, something like an $8 million grant to study kratom, its effect, its safety profile, how it interacts potentially with other drugs and whatnot. And that's been a little bit the challenge with kratom, because if it was just like a little energy booster, there wouldn't have been so many eyes on it. But because it's an effective replacement for a lot of people who are struggling with things like pain, chronic pain, pain relief, and whatnot, it goes into that medicine drug territory. And this is why there was such a big controversy with kratom, because anytime you bring out a new drug on the marketplace, yes, you have to do your rigorous testing. You have to do clinical studies. You have to put in millions and millions and millions of dollars to see if this is safe, if this is something that can be recommended by the health services. Now comes this plant that you can't really patent. It can be like a pharmaceutical company and be like, well, we invented kratom. It's not. It's a plant that grows freely and whatnot. So it's not in their interest necessarily to go through that traditional process of creating a drug where you do all this testing and whatnot. And on the other side of things, it's like they've invested all this millions of dollars of money into study with other pharmaceuticals that treat things like pain and depression and whatnot. So now they're actually competing against something that is popping up, that has been used for centuries, that is working effectively, that is helping people, that is cheap, safe, effective, and natural. And you can kind of see where
safer than the pharmaceuticals, even safer than the pharmaceuticals, safer obviously than the opioids that they've created and spent billions and made billions on, right? Like obviously a lot of those opioid deaths are from legal pharmaceutical drugs, tens of thousands per year from legal pharmaceutical drugs. Whereas kratom, natural, safe, effective, essentially harmless.
Now look at the numbers, man.
Cheap.
Look at the numbers. Even with the craziest statistics, they want to pull out any even circumstantial evidence that kratom had something to do with a fatality. It's not more than a handful over the last decade. And now we're comparing to 500,000 people that died off of those pharmaceuticals. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You come to me, talk to me about safety profile if you can't see that discrepancy between the two there. So it's a non-issue for me.
And those are just deaths. Those are just deaths, like you said. That's if you got 5 million people in the US using kratom, how many million people are addicted to OxyContin and Percocet,
fentanyl,
and
fucking heroin,
fentanyl, Xanax, whatever. Like definitely more than the kratom users, right?
I mean, is it a perfect solution? Ideally, you wouldn't take anything, right? But that's not the world. We don't live in a perfect world. It's not like with some breath work that we're gonna heal all of our pains right away. We're looking to helping the people that are in pain, that are struggling, that are not in a perfect place, and kratom can play a huge role in that. And yeah, that's the word we're trying to get out here a little bit, because I've experienced it myself, and sure, a lot of it's anecdotal, but if you're getting dozens of anecdotal stories, every week, and that builds up until thousands of stories, and you feel the energy of people and the gratefulness of people, and well, you just know it's true. And now, obviously, the science is catching up with that, but we know this already. So it's get it out there. Obviously, do your research. Be smart about it. Don't take it as a gospel, but holy moly, is it a lifesaver for people, and people should at least be aware of that this exists, because it helps people in some of the worst pains and situations they can find themselves in. Chronic pain, addiction, major depression and whatnot. I've seen it all being not necessarily resolved, but definitely helped and cared for thanks to kratom. And that's just something people should know, because this is ultimately a plant on this planet that has this effect, that interacts with us. We are intimately connected with the plants. What they breathe out is what we breathe in, and we're so connected with each other. And this is just an often overlooked little planet not too many people know about, but even now more and more people know about it. So it's going the right direction, and yeah, hopefully creating some kind of balance between like the human world that's gotten a little bit out of hand, and then the plant world that's been there for millions of years. It's a spiritual conversation of sorts.
Absolutely, man. Same with ayahuasca.
Mm-hmm.
So where do people find kratom then? If it's so good, where can you find it? I mean, I know that being kind of locked down the last couple years, it's been kind of hard, but I've been able to fly up to Miami and I just basically go shopping around, smoke shops and find, pretty much every smoke shop's got some form of kratom, whether it's capsules or powder. But where would you recommend finding kratom for the average person in Canada or in the US or in Europe or even in South America even?
Gotcha. Well, if you're looking for something real fast on the same day, then the places that you mentioned are pretty good. I've seen natural store carry it, head shop, smoke shops traditionally carry it as well because of the audience it attracts as well. People that are happy to try something new here once in a while. So there's a huge audience of innovators, let's say, that shop at these places. So smoke shops, head shops are pretty good. If you have a little bit more time, then I would suggest doing a little bit of research and finding vendors online where you just order kratom in bulk. It'll be so much cheaper, and you can quickly find a website by googling. Let's say you buy kratom online wherever you are in the U.S. or Canada, and do a little bit of research as well. Don't just go for the very first result that you find. See if the company does their diligence, get a feel for them, see if there's reviews on it, and not just like a handful of reviews that look cookie cutter. Important is to see if they do any lab testing as well, and if they are providing these lab tests online for you to check out. So it's important that these things get checked for quality, like heavy metal, bacteria, micro contamination, all those things that are standard routines, things you need to do anyways if you're testing food from a different place. So do your diligence, but the information is out there. Um, Best is probably just to order from an online vendor if you're not too much in a hurry. Find one with good reviews that does their lab testing, that is rigorous. I'll provide you with some links that people could do to find their own little vendor that they like best, and try it out, test it out, see what works best. If you find something you like, then as long as you keep liking it, then it's not breaking the bank. Then that's probably a good source for you. There's a so-called American Kratom Association as well, and they're very, very much active about having good quality kratom, not just from advocacy, but also from a vendor standpoint, where they do their testing, they do their diligence, they do the lab reports and whatnot, and they can only get the seal of approval if they work in a facility that is not a little bathtub in the backyards of Austin, Texas, or something. It's or like a
Sure.
legit company.
So
So
it's kind of like the certified organic label.
very much so. So that'll give you a very good indicator that you're on the right track to getting a good source. Some people like to get it from Indonesia as well, straight from the source. There's something to be said about the cost. It's usually a little bit cheaper, but you might get a headache of not knowing who you're dealing with, it not being tested, it being stuck in customs and whatnot. So usually those packages don't
Yeah.
always come through. I would stay away from that, but I don't necessarily am here to tell anyone what to do. Some people have found success with it. It'll be cheaper, but you're taking bigger risk uh, getting it from there. So something to be said about that.
Cool. Well, I think that gives people a fucking great idea about what kratom is and everything they need to know about kratom. I think the title of this episode is going to be Everything You Need to Know About Kratom. So I think we pretty much got that. But obviously you're a talented speaker, you're an engaging speaker, and you've been actually working on your speaking capabilities with these public speaking contests, right? So I wanted to ask you, just how that's going. If you have anything to say to people about, how this kind of practicing the public speaking and being in the contest has improved your life, or why people should get involved in public speaking and how and where people can do that.
Gotcha. I can briefly speak to that.
Whatever you want to say, really.
Sure. I'm part of this organization called Toastmasters. Toastmasters. It's basically a bunch of random people in a city or a community that come together once a week and train their public speaking. Either they give speeches or they do little improvised speeches where they get asked a question and they have to speak for 2 minutes, be engaging or whatnot. And like a lot of people think it's something you're born with or it's like natural charisma and whatnot. But the more you go to these meetings, the more you realize it's a skill like any other skill, like a muscle that you train. And the more you train it, the better you get at it. And what I got out of it is just a comfort into putting my thoughts into words and then communicating and understanding, or seeing rather, if the message gets through to people, and yeah, the art of communication in that way. So I'm part of that group for a couple of years. And what's cool is that this specific community I'm part of is the Vancouver Entrepreneurs Toastmasters Club. So there's the entrepreneurial part of it as well, where you just meet all these cool people, get inspired by what they're fired up about, and at the same time get better at public speaking. So it just combines so many of my interests together that it's just a really cool community to be part of. And now, obviously, with the pandemic and whatnot, it's a little bit harder to meet in person, so it's switched very much to a Zoom format. But yeah, I got challenged to give like a contest speech a couple of months ago, and honestly, I didn't think too much of it. So like the day before, I just like quickly whipped something up that I had read about online, and put a little personal story into it. And ultimately, I just wrote a speech to kind of like hammer in a message that I like, but like really integrate it into my life. And the topic I selected was this topic I read about on Reddit called "No More 0 Days." Basically very simple is that whatever your goals and dreams are, don't let one day go by without doing something towards them. Even if it's like a 5-minute short bit, it adds up. And it's that consistency of doing something towards it day in, day out that over time adds up. It's like compound interest for your dreams and your goals. And yeah, I gave a little speech about it, and it just resonated so well with people that they selected me as the winner for the club. And I was like, wow, that's kind of like surprising, but hey, there must be something to that message. They kind of refined the message, calmed it down a little bit, because the first version was very kind of rough, and I was just like angry at the pandemic and just like shitting all over that, which is a good time, but not so much in a professional contest. So kind of calmed it down to the next level of the speech, where I was competing against other clubs, and lo and behold, I won that one too. And on a third level, it was like an even bigger area, pretty much like all of Vancouver wide. And I won that one too. So now I'm going to the next level in 2 weeks, where yeah, it has to be like the next version of the speech. So I found a mentor to help me out with.
You've got this memorized.
Oh yeah.
Why don't you rip it up, man? Rip it up.
Rip it up. Oh man, I'll shoot you a link to the actual thing if you'd like.
Okay, sure.
So you can check that out, and it'll be just a little bit more appropriate and whatnot. But I'll give you a little sneak preview if you want.
We'll put a link to it in the show notes if you want.
Yeah.
But if you want to go ahead, go ahead.
A sneak preview here. So
a sneak preview. Okay.
Ever get that feeling that you are wasting your life? I know I do. But this wasn't always the case. Before COVID, I was fired up about martial arts, doing improv comedy, and I always had weekends full of friends and fun to look forward to. However, since this vile, filthy pandemic assaulted our lives, all of the things that made my life so interesting just disappeared. And with that, part of my soul disappeared as well. For the rest, you'll just have to check out the sneak preview.
The trailer.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
The trailer.
But it goes into
awesome.
some really useful things that have worked for me, and it's not just like a boohoo story like this guy, right? No, it's just something that really worked for me, and it resonates with a lot of people, and definitely ends on a positive, uplifting, motivating note. So yeah, I'll shoot you the link, and it's been really fun just to have that accelerated growth experience and being surrounded with people from the club that want to help me, listening to a podcast about presentations, just a lot of training as well, and just having like a purpose and a goal to work towards too. So no matter what, it's already been a win, and it's improved my life in a good, positive way. And during COVID, you gotta find things to do, because you're getting challenged for sure.
So in what ways has this kind of practice in public speaking improved your life and your business?
Being able to formulate thoughts, put them into words, communicate with people so they understand what I'm talking about, be more comfortable talking about, anyone to anyone, about anyone as well, goes a long way. Communicating on the fly, where you don't really have a prepared script, where you're just kind of winging it and whatnot. Understanding that communication is very much like an energy transfer. So you can say the words, but there's no energy behind it. You're not really going to feel the message all that much. think like there's a part of acting that comes into play as well. Not necessarily acting like you're someone else, but acting in a way that really, connects the energy with your words, and it just becomes so much more engaging to talk to people, to communicate with them, laugh, understand people as well, because you understand mannerisms and whatnot. So yeah, it's very much our main communication tool is our voice, and the way we you know can be powerful is to work together like we are doing, where we're bringing our energies together here, and then through the medium of internet, it just gets blown over the world. It's Yeah, it's something that can be trained, and something that should be trained, because it will allow you for your voice to be heard further, and louder, and better. And if you want to make a change in the world, then you better know your story, and you better know how to communicate the story. And this kind of thing gives you the tools to do it. It still has to be your story. You still have to figure out what you're about, but it will definitely help with like spreading the message out there. So yeah, just talking to people, man. That's what we do, and that's what creates change at the end of the day. Think about great speakers, politicians, John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King. Like, these are people who have done it through the power of speaking and speeches and whatnot, and that's our little contribution to this life and existence.
I absolutely know. Actually, chapter, I believe, 4 in my new book, 12 Laws of the Jungle, Law 4, Learn to Hunt,
Mm,
is all about the importance of selling,
mm,
but not so much in the way of just selling, but the art of persuasion, the art of communicating your ideas, the art of selling your vision to stakeholders, employees or whoever, customers. And as an entrepreneur, as anyone in a position of high leverage, communication is the secret weapon. It really is. You can get a lot done if you can communicate well, and if you can't communicate well, it's like some type of massive disadvantage. Like you're communicationally challenged or something like that. You're not going to do well in entrepreneurship or in business. So yeah, man, I'd recommend people go out there and get some practice and join Toastmasters. I've seen your improvements, and I've seen the passion that you have for it. And I watched your video when you sent it to me a few months ago. It was awesome, and I'm happy to see you out there kicking ass on the competition circuit.
right on, brother. Yeah, it's a fun times, and I appreciate it, and I see you understand the value of that as well. So it's tremendous to be on a path towards growth and whatnot. And I think kind of what we kind of glossed over in the Kratom story is just people's stories, man. Because you've built a center in the middle of the Amazon rainforest at some point with your blood, sweat, and tears. And maybe you can talk a little bit on the role Kratom had in that, in that massive undertaking.
Well, I mean, I've been a regular Kratom user since 2012, right? Since we met, since we started experimenting with Kratom in that previous job. And I mean, it's just part of my life now. Um, it's like my morning coffee. I have my Kratom, and it helps with my back pain and my joint pain. I've had a couple of massive injuries, which do cause me regular daily pain, and the Kratom does help not only with the pain itself, but with the mood associated with having pain. Like, just kind of something I look forward to. It gives me a boost, and yeah, man, it's helped me to become more productive in work for sure. Like you said, I've had a few marathon sprints over the past 8 years. I've been full-time entrepreneur since 2013, and before that budding. So but yeah, building the center in the Amazon and building that company, and then coming up here and building this company, Soltara, in Costa Rica, both very strenuous, very intense output for multiple years, right? It's like you're on a sprint, but you're running a 26-kilometer marathon or half marathon. But I don't know how long marathons are, but it's a long fucking time. So, um, you know, basically just massive output, tons of stress, tons of pressure. And Kratom has been definitely a key component of my ability to manage mood, energy levels, and pain throughout that time. And also, there have been several times when I've, cut back on like all other substances, including alcohol. But then just having Kratom there, it's kind of like that natural solution, that natural option that, doesn't keep you up at night, doesn't give you a hangover, doesn't have any weird side effects or anything like that. It's just a substitute. And so, I mean, yeah, man, I've got obviously nothing but love for that mighty plant. So, yeah, man. Yeah. I think both of us are in about the same boat there.
Yeah, 100%, man. And as you can tell, we're energetic, we're vibrant, we're entrepreneurial, we get shit done. No one would be able to tell that, that's being fueled with something, natural, because that's just how nature is supposed to work. It's supposed to fuel you with, good food and good nutrients, and then, good plant matter if you want. So it's nothing but love. How do you say that in Spanish?
Nada aparte que el amor.
Nada porque el amor.
Nada aparte que el amor.
Nada aparte.
Nothing apart from love.
Nada aparte que el amor.
Uh-huh.
Me gusta. Yeah, man. And I think even more than explaining what Kratom is, it's personal stories that really make the difference. One of my favorite stories is met this guy who was walking with a cane, just young guy, IT guy, and he was walking with a cane, just well articulate, just dope guy and whatnot. But he was walking with a cane because he had some kind of spinal injury, and he has been dealing with it for years. He found about Kratom, and I talked to him and gave him some Kratom and whatnot. And literally the day after, he came into my office, like shining bright, and guess what? He didn't bring his cane. He was walking normally. He's like, "This is ridiculous. I've tried everything, and this is the only thing that works." And like walking without a cane for the first time in my life, and it was just such a. You'd almost think it was like a snake oil sales guy thing, but he was coming to me. I was not selling it to anyone, but
Yeah.
it was just seeing that kind of change in such an extreme situation was just this guy should be like the poster boy for Kratom, because his story is just tremendous. Now, is it going to help with the cause of any effects or any disabilities? No, it's not going to magically heal your spine and whatnot, but it'll be so much easier on what's going on, and potentially
Helps you maintain maintain healthy way permanently, no side effects, like no problems, no issues. I'm super healthy, man. And I've been rocking Kratom to a significant degree since 2012, and literally zero negative health effects whatsoever. Like zero. Okay. If anything, just all positives.
Now, is it going to be like that for every single person? Well, everybody's chemistry is different and whatnot. So obviously, do your diligence and whatnot. But from what I've seen, and I've seen it in hundreds and hundreds of people personally, and I've read about thousands and thousands more people online, it's just a lifesaver, man. And that's kind of how it comes full circle with what we were saying about life saving. It literally is. It literally is. And now the science is kind of catching up. Here's a little excerpt from the Journal of Drug and Alcohol Dependence, an article from just a couple of months ago. Lyophilized Kratom tea as a therapeutic option for opioid dependence. I'll send you the link as well, so you can potentially add it to the notes. But the highlights are Kratom tea produces pain relieving effects. That's literally like their scientific kind of highlight or conclusion of their study. Kratom tea produced no sedative effects and minimum respiratory depression. So no ODing. And 3, Kratom tea ameliorated opioid withdrawal systems, both chronically and acutely. So people who are coming off with crazy withdrawals, it's helping them. It's in a scientific journal, peer-reviewed journal of just a couple of months ago. So science is catching up with that, and it's beautiful to see, because even articles like the Mayo Clinic and whatnot, they're basing themselves on articles from 5 years ago and whatnot. And 5 years ago, the state of science wasn't quite to where it is today. But it's really nice to see the science catching up today, and yeah, it's very hopeful and positive, and ultimately, man, like just being in balance with plant life is what this is all about, really. And it's kind of crazy how many like hurdles we have to jump through it. But as the path to greatness, it's a lot of hurdles, but it's worth it, because once you're at that top of the mountain and see how beautiful it is, it's nothing more fulfilling in life than that.
So speaking of plant life, maybe we want to close out in your ayahuasca experience, because you've been involved with, you've been involved with me and my ayahuasca endeavors since, basically the very beginning. I was just getting started when we met, and you were a key player in the kind of the transformational Reddit AMA post
Oh yeah.
that got my first business off the ground. And so you traveled with me to Peru. I don't know if did you ever come to the center there after I built the center? You came before the center was built, and in 2013, and then you came. Did you come to the center in Peru after I built the center?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I went on
And then
the Pulse tours. Then I came to
Soltara. Yeah.
Soltara as well in Costa Rica. But I
came to like the inaugural retreat,
Ayahuasca
right?
Adventure Center. I did. Ayahuasca Adventure Center. I was there as well. Remember, I brought the mosquito thing that I don't know if it worked or not.
Mosquito fuck thing. Yeah, that thing. It never worked. So poor you traveling through Peru with this big ass box, the mosquito magnet.
Hey man, I do it all over again, dude. That was fucking magical, dude. Nothing like the jungle sanctuary you build in the Amazon. Even if I had a little part to play to get you out that first friggin' boiler room place, and then filling up your tour with that AMA, and then helping you out there. Nothing but honor, man. Nothing but honor. And still wearing this one from Soltara here that I got from Angela.
Oh, nice.
A little ayahuasca and a little stone and whatnot. So that's part of me, and then very much consider that part of my life in a huge way. So having played a role of being there at the beginning of you coming to Vancouver, learning the sales and entrepreneurial spirit, and going on your adventure to creating awareness and creating access to plant medicine, which is like the spirit of the plant in a huge way. And now you being in Soltara and Costa Rica, your favorite country in the world. It's amazing to see your growth and even have like a little part to play in that. It's been an absolute honor, and I'm super humbled by that.
Ditto, brother. Well, what was your ayahuasca experience like? I mean, like, what role did ayahuasca play in your development? Is there anything salient that came up that is still alive in you from the ceremonies that you had, the number of different ceremonies you had?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a multifaceted answer. I've done it about a dozen times or so, and every journey is wildly different, because they say ayahuasca gives you whatever you need at that time. That's why sometimes you'll just be like so happy and loving and just feeling connected to the universe, feeling like you're in the center of the universe, especially when the shaman is like singing right into you, and you feel like the spiritual being that light is just shining out of, and it's just pure bliss, right? Sometimes you get that, and that just like fills you up with so much love and appreciation and respect, and you want to just talk to everyone, and you don't feel like you're just a person. You feel like you're really connected to everything, be it plants, animals, humans. You really feel like you're part of something huge, something bigger and whatnot. So I'd say that's my huge takeaway of that, is not just knowing that you're part of existence, but really feeling intimately connected to it, like I don't know, a blood cell in a huge body or something, but you're part of something that you're ultimately completely connected to. That was my big aha moment, and I carry that like not just around my neck physically, but wherever I go, and whoever I talk to, whoever I meet, it's just I realize that they're a part of me, I'm a part of them, and in a way, the way you treat them is going to be the way the world treats you as well, because you get what you give in a huge way. So that spiritual notion that's connected to a lot of religions as well. I can see where they're getting it from. It's from that spiritual existence of it. At the same time, some of the sessions have been really dark, and it really felt like I was literally dying spiritually to be then reborn in a huge way, because you get confronted with so much darkness and negativity they've been carrying throughout your life. Some things you like didn't even know you're carrying with you, deep trauma and whatnot. And then through that process of purging, not only there's light that gets shined on those dark spots, but they actually physically get catapulted out of your body by, by the purging process. And it just feels like you feel so much lighter after all that. It's just like just get refreshed. Your guts get power washed with a, with a spiritual power washer. And it gets violent sometimes, but it's all healing. So
Spiritual power
it's
washer. I like that.
it's spiritual power wash. I also like the violent healing. Violent healing. Yeah, it's violent at times, but it gets the job done sometimes better and faster than, 10 years in psychotherapy would do. Not to diss psychotherapy, it definitely has its place, but if you're looking for something like, bigger, something that connects you to, the spirit, God, existence, the universe, whatever that means to you, the bigger thing. That's what Soltara provides us. It's provide a kind of doorway into that, that world where we're all one. So let's get fired up just talking about it. So it's yeah, if you can do it and you feel the calling, and sometimes people don't feel the calling, and that's fine as well. But if you feel like you're ready for it, then don't deny yourself that. It's some of the most beautiful experience you can have with yourself, within yourself, and outside yourself, because the entire universe comes into your existence, and it's just it's a beautiful way to live, man. Psychedelics.
Right on, bro. Well, do you have any final words that you'd like to share with the audience about Kratom or plant medicines or public speaking or entrepreneurship, or any plugs you want to make for people to get in touch or learn more about what you support?
Gotcha. Well, definitely look into Kratom. There's a good documentary on. I think it was on Netflix, but if you can't find it on Netflix, I'm sure you can find it on any streaming service. It's called "A Leaf of Faith," like a leap, but a leaf of faith, kind of like a reference to Kratom. That would be a really good resource because Buddy is an established documentary maker with like a bodybuilder, and he has some chronic pain and whatnot. He discovers Kratom, and then originally he was going to do a documentary about like pharmaceuticals and whatnot. But then after he discovered Kratom, he's like, I need to get the message out about that. So he travels to Indonesia, interviews a bunch of people and whatnot. That'll be a really good resource for people to learn more about Kratom. I'll post a bunch of links about Kratom and good websites and advocacy groups as well, so people can start doing their own research. At the end of the day, if you're struggling with some things like low mood, low energy, or especially pain and addiction, look into Kratom. Is it a perfect solution? It's not a perfect solution, but we don't live in a perfect world. It's tremendous to have, and it might very well save your life or someone you care about, because statistics say 1 in 3 people deal with some kind of chronic pain at all times. So absolutely look into that. It's a lifesaver for many, and it can be for you. So Kratom, that's the big one. And yeah, if you want to check out my speech, please do. It's really about chasing your goals and dreams, and giving you tools to do it. Just get after it every day, even if it's just a little bit. It really adds up. It really makes a difference. It definitely has for me. Got me out of a bit of a hole during COVID, and got me refreshed and energized, and more of like a giving being than like a taking being, and that has made a big impact for me as well. So check it out. Don't don't focus too much on me, but focus on the message and what it can mean for you. That's really the most important kind of thing I can leave you with.
Cool. All right, man. Well, thank you very much for making the time. I'm grateful for your friendship. I'm grateful for your time. Hopefully we can get back on the concert tour
Hell yeah, homie.
pretty soon.
That's coming up.
We
for sure.
we had a couple of concerts planned just before the fucking pandemic hit. So, that's kind of our MO, is meet up in different places around the world and hit up Slayer concerts or whatever. But
Love
yeah,
it.
we'll do it again soon, man. From what I hear, talking to a couple of my friends in the metal industry, that they're starting to think about touring like come July, August, so hell, I've got tickets to Lamb of God and Megadeth on August 14th in Palm Beach. So I think I've already invited you to that, but we got to fucking rock that up. So
That's gonna be another one for the books, brother.
yeah. All right, buddy. Thanks again. Just kick it here for a sec as we close the windows down, and we'll continue speaking.
Rock and roll, homie. Good times, good times. Always get to get the word out about the good stuff in our lives.
Peace.
The Daniel Cleland Podcast.
Thank you so much, my friends, for checking out the Daniel Cleland Podcast. We love you and appreciate you. If you liked what you saw, please like, subscribe, share it up with your friends and loved ones who might benefit from these episodes. And if you'd like to check out more episodes, we've got some links conveniently placed over there. So check it out, share it up. And until next time, be well. Much love to you. Thank you so much.